What up, my people? So, even to this day, there's so many arguments. I don't really understand why, because it's right here in the Bible. All you got to do is have some type of understanding revelation. You know what I mean? All you got to do is know how to comprehend. That's what I was trying to think of. The scriptures. So, speaking in tongues, I already proved to you verse after verse after verse that it's for today. It didn't end with the prophets. But let me talk about what you're actually doing. Speaking in tongues, praying in the spirit, whatever you want to call it. Let's go to 1 Corinthians 14th chapter. Start at verse 2. It says, "For he that speaketh in an unknown tongue speaketh not unto man, but unto God. For no man understandeth him. Howbeit in the spirit he speaketh mysteries." So what are you doing when you're praying in tongues, when you got this awesome grace gifts? Right here it says you're speaking to God. You ain't speaking to people. You're speaking to God. Now, if you're in a congregation and you're praying in tongues, Paul said in this same chapter, you don't do that unless you have someone to interpret what you're saying in English. Because the whole thing Paul was trying to explain is that teaching, when you're teaching, you want to prophesy in English, or you want to teach in English or whatever language you're in that environment, so people can understand it and get lifted up and edified. So they'll understand what you're saying, basically. But right here, see, tongues is more of a grace gift that's for the individual, because it says you're speaking to God. But you can speak in tongues in a setting where you're teaching a congregation if someone's there, or if you have the gift of interpreting, explaining what you said. Because Paul is trying to explain the most important part about this is people understanding and getting revelation and edifying, building people up. And they can't be built up if they don't know what you're saying. So that's what Paul was trying to explain here in 1 Corinthians 14 chapter. He wasn't saying he wasn't saying not to speak in tongues. He was just giving a criteria that getting an understanding of what you said is most important. So you speak in tongues in a congregation, it has to be followed up by an interpretation, interpreting what you said so your congregation or the people can understand it, get built up and edified from what you're saying. But you don't do it if you're not able to interpret so that people won't understand it. He said in that case, just prophesy in whatever language the people in. The main point, people got to understand what you're saying or they're not getting built up or edified. Praise God.